Yeah. We'll do we'll do a cold opening too. We'll just start. I just set it up, and so we're going to do a cold opening. I'm not going to do the real intro yet. I'm still trying to set up the chat room because I know there's actually people who actually want to watch this week because you're on. So let's get them.
Well, it says we're live, so.
Oh, I know. As I said, I'm doing a cold opening. So where we just
start in media ray, like we're having something.
Well, yeah, because I notice a lot of the good shit talking happens right before I start the show, and then before people. So you know. Speaking of the drinking, that's what happened Wednesday night at Gen Con with all the Jaeger. We were drinking all the Jaeger out in front of at 3 in the morning in front of the JW Marriott. So,
I heard about that with Neil.
Yeah, with all the Neils, and even Sykes came out, so God bless him.
Better not say that too loud where his wife can hear it on the internet.
Yeah, she's always...
Angela's a sweetheart.
All right, you ready, Charlie? We're doing the official opening now.
Fuck it, let's do it live.
All right, welcome to the Discard Pile. I'm your host, John Corbett. It's August, is it 30th yet? 29th or some shit?
28th, still.
Close enough. All right. I've had a busy day, so we're just winging this one on the fly. As you see from my rambling, my first guest for this is episode 13, Lucky 13. So we have the chairman for our third quarter finale. We'll be off in September. We'll come back in October, maybe. I don't know. I'll be busy watching football. Welcome, Charlie. Welcome to the show, finally.
Yeah, thanks, John. I mean, I could only put you off so many times. So.
I didn't. No, don't try that. You were never invited so far.
I've never been invited. Never once been invited. So.
Well, I was going to save you for the actual season finale at the end of the year, but this is really kind of the end of the year when it comes to organized Trek, really.
It's the end of the Trek year.
Yeah, it's the end of the Trek calendar, and we have some things to discuss. It wasn't supposed to be a one-on-one, so this isn't an official, Matthias had to come on and get in the hot seat, so it might get, well, it always might get heated, but this isn't, it's not, you haven't been, you're not being interrogated yet. I'm not going
with I figured you'd wait till after the period of review to do that to me, so.
Yeah, maybe. I don't have any lights behind me yet. I should start. That's actually a great idea. I'm gonna set 4 lights for every time.
How many lights do you see?
Yeah. So when people fuck up, well, Matthias, I don't know. I don't think he'll be back on, but we'll see. I did see that you guys out there in SoCal have 20-foot waves from the hurricane. So you've been getting out there. You're catching those waves.
I lived here almost 2 years before I even went to the beach, so I'm the wrong person to ask on that. But that's a little north of here. That's up, Malibu, LA, where it's that big. But they're definitely they're big here. I work about a mile from the ocean, so you can, I have coworkers that take pictures and stuff. So I haven't been out to the oceans or anything, but they're idiots that are trying to surf these giant waves. And I know at least one guy drowned up, a little bit north of here already with riding these 20-foot waves, and like, yeah, okay, I'll stay on land where there aren't sharks and waves that are going to kill me. I mean, any wave that's going to kill me while I'm on land, I'm probably not going to get away from anyway. So.
Well, I said when you moved out there, I said you're gonna. That's how you die. You get eaten by a shark, a Sharknado or something. So if
either get eaten by a shark or fall into the earth when the California collapses. So
it's a big pool of sharks when they all get the earthquake shark hole. I'm sure that'll be a sci-fi movie coming up. But
shark hole.
if you do get eaten by a shark, I am gonna go to your funeral and be like, I said that was gonna happen. I'm gonna be a complete asshole and be like, I told that motherfucker he was gonna get eaten by a shark. So don't go out that way because I'm gonna be an asshole.
Well, you win the death pool then.
Your parents are gonna be crying. Everyone's gonna be all sad. I'm like, yeah, I'm right about that shit.
Everybody start up the death pool. $10 on your how is Charlie gonna die? I'll put 10 on, gun in the mouth. Just.
Don't pull a Hemingway. You're not cool enough to pull a Hemingway. Only talented people blow their heads off.
Oh no. Not even close.
Sucking on the business end of a shotgun like Kurt Cobain. That's way up north in Seattle. So where am I at? I gotta do some ranting. So I don't even have questions for these because I'm not prepared. Just stuff that made me angry. And we're starting late tonight because we were doing our Trek league fantasy football draft, and I saw the NFL. The NFL is cracking down on my New Jersey buddy Ray Rice. Beat the crap out of his fiancee in an elevator in Atlantic City. They caught that on tape, and it looked really bad. He cold-cocked the girl, and he only caught like 2-game suspension. So the commissioner has to be like, I fucked up, and now he's going to expand that. And it was, and I quote, expanding penalties for players accused of domestic violence. Now, I'm sensitive about this topic because I'm a guy who got charged with kidnapping and robbing his wife in my own home. So the penalty for being accused of things makes me nervous. So I don't know what happened to due process. Like if a dude gets, if it finds out that you beat your wife, yeah, throw the book at him, cut him out of the league. But isn't it fucked up now? I know they're the employers, not the law. It's just an employer. But penalizing people for being accused of things, isn't that a dangerous precedent? Am I just being paranoid, Charlie?
I think it's potentially a dangerous precedent. I mean, you have to be sensitive to the fact that it's not just any business. It's not just any employer-employee relationship. It's a high-profile, very public one. And, the NFL goes out of its way to say, look, we're doing all this charity stuff, and we're role models for young people. So, you've got to be particularly sensitive. If you're gonna maintain that position of these are people to look up to, you have to hold them to a higher standard. And, I don't necessarily think that it's fair to say you've been accused of something, throw the book at you. But I do think it's fair to say we expect to hold you to this standard, and if there needs to be an intermediate step there, right, where it's like, okay, an accusation has been made, there needs to be a step, even if it's just you're temporarily suspended while this is being investigated. And if it turns out that there's no basis to it, you're reinstated, your back pay is restored, and no harm, no foul, And it puts it on the NFL to go quickly if they're going to do that too. But, if you get along the lines of, oh, you've been accused of this, okay, you're dismissed and you're fined and all this other stuff, then you're getting into, punished, proven guilty, guilty.
Yeah, no due process. Yeah, I understand that the NFL, just like the NBA, they're protecting itself with their racist owner. They have to protect their brand. But they're just doing what society, even the justice system does. When you get accused of something, they throw the book at you, and then they sort it out later. And it's a shame. Like even that one instance with Ray Rice's, she ended up marrying him. She didn't press charges. She ended up marrying him. Getting that money.
It doesn't make it right. But
no, I know. Well, the problem is that it's going to be the one female who uses that against the dude, like, hey, I'm going to go say this crazy shit. And hey, guess what? Newsflash, 1 out of 10 female is just going to say crazy shit to get a guy in trouble.
It's probably more like, 1 out of 1,000, but still, I fully believe that.
You haven't watched the show enough to know the He-Man woman hating that goes on here.
It's screwed up. It really is just screwed up. I mean, and all of this isn't even factoring in the once the accusation's made, that
I think we lost
out there, even if it is. I'm still here.
It might be one place, not one of those shows. We've gotten lucky. We've only had one bad show this year. Yeah, I just I'm all for crime and punishment, but you got to wait sure people are guilty before. We might have dropped Charlie. Might be the show where we have to. I might have to talk in the dark. Welcome to Road to Worlds. I'm your host, Dan Madison.
Am I back?
Was it your end or my end?
I don't know. My internet's being stupid, but it seems to be better now. So.
Okay. Sorry. But like I said, this is usually why we have two guests. I need a backup in case one of us or myself goes down. All right, fuck it. Shit happens in the NFL. I would have tied into last week when I was just ranting about our last show. While I was all angry, I finished up Richard Nixon's book, and the second half is all domestic policy, and he's a full-fledged cunt. He's just an old man arguing about hippies, and the worst part is his statistics where 90% of black people are murdered by other black people, and he blames the culture, which is like blaming a rape victim in my mind, and which ties us into what happened today, or not today, but as we're playing nerd games at Gen Con, the 60s started all over again in Ferguson, right outside of St. Louis.
God, that's so fucked up.
Yeah, so it's that's so. I mean, obviously, race is like a scab in America. It's kind of healed. It looks like it's healed, but every time it just rips open, and it looks really bad.
Here's the problem, right? Is government has we've granted rights to all the people that didn't have rights. The right to vote and civil rights. And all
the gays might have an issue with that statement.
Except for the gay. That's yes. Good point. The problem is, and it baffles me that people will disagree with this statement, is there's a massive culture of white privilege in the United States, and it permeates everything from government to media all the way down to the lowest levels of society. And the fact that people can sit there and say, no, there's not. Like, John, you and I are white men. You and I are white straight men. We benefit from society just by being white straight men. That is a fact. Yep. If either one of us was gay or black or a woman, we would have a much harder time in life just because of that fact. And it sucks. I wish it wasn't that way. I would argue that it's a little better now than it was in the past. I mean, the internet and different channels of, like, imagine all the shit going down in Ferguson in the 80s, like where all we would have ever seen is what the media was showing us. Now we have the option to actually, you have the media story, and then you have social media where you've got people on the ground taking pictures of police gassing people standing like this in protest. I mean, it's like the war photography from the 60s and the protest photography, but like to that higher level. It saddens me that this shit.
Instead of I touched on it 2 shows ago with TK about a little bit about the militarization of police departments, excess government military goods. The Pentagon unloads them to local townships. So instead of German Shepherds and hoses like the 60s, it's these tank-like vehicles and full-fledged combat gear. So there's really no difference. The image was still the same, and that's fucked up. This is more about it's just about the police, really. As white males, I've had some fucked up run-ins with the cops, and I'm not a cop hater, even though I might have my reasons. But as a white male, I don't have to worry about just straight up getting beat for no reason, which can happen. Like the worst that happened is a cop treats me like shit, treats me like an animal, pulls me over, and that's happened.
Your odds of getting stopped, your odds of getting arrested, your odds of getting assaulted are much lower than a black person, a black person, and that sucks.
And I'm not gonna try to say this in some reverse situation, but growing up in South Jersey, I grew up next to Camden. And I'd get pulled over just for being in the wrong neighborhood. I'm the white kid in the black neighborhood. Like, what are you doing here? You're buying drugs. And sometimes I'd be up to no good, but most of the time I wasn't. And, so it goes both ways. But, like, the cops wouldn't pull me out of the car and just beat me. They just treat you like you're an asshole and treat you with no respect. And now the problem is, we don't know what happened in this one situation with this kid, but when I hear the phrase, "he was reaching for my gun," I just smell bullshit. I think that's the motto of the cop who fucked up. It just doesn't it's not a good story. So anytime I hear that, so from my own personal point of view, and I thought of this a long time ago, I think there should be a 10-year limit on being a police officer on the street, because you have to deal with the worst of society. And after 10 years of seeing just shit, a world of shit, you become jaded, and you become, maybe this dude had an itchy finger when it came to, he might have he has run-ins with gangbangers. You don't know this kid. This kid could be, he's on his way to college. He doesn't know this is a good kid or a bad kid.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I understand the need for police officers to be armed and to, well, I don't really, but in this society where police officers are armed, they have the right to defend themselves. And if this kid, Michael Brown, I think, is that his name?
Yeah,
I don't want to. If this kid did try something, the police officer had every right to defend himself. What's bullshit to me is that Ferguson, Missouri spent all this money on this military hardware, but they couldn't get cameras in these cars. Like, we don't know what happened, and it's this cop's word against this eyewitness's word that's sketchy at best. You know,
they had, some cops now they wear personal cameras besides the dashboard cameras. Even in town a little bit south of where I'm at in Texas, they have it. It was just a thing that was on the news, and from one point of view, it looked like the cop. It just looked weird. The guy was being all cop, but on the personal point of view, he saw the guy. You could see the guy making a move at the cop. So yeah, every cop should wear a camera on him, on his person.
There's no. And you're really right. There's no reason for these police departments to have all this equipment, to have SWAT teams going on routine arrests and have armored assault vehicles and not have cams. It's just that, it's scary. It's scary police state type stuff. They're arresting journalists, and part of the problem was, from what I gather, I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but like there were so many. There was the Ferguson police, and then there was the county police, and then the FBI was there, and then the National Guard was there. And so a lot of the problems with journalists being arrested was there weren't clear rules. Journalists were told at one point, stay on this side of the street, and then another agency would come in and change the rules, and all of a sudden all these journalists that were standing where they were supposed to be got told to leave, and those that didn't because they didn't understand got arrested. So, I mean, I don't believe it was some sort of like arrest the journalists to keep this out of the news that some people are saying, but I mean, really.
And a point I wanted to get to is like this stuff doesn't get. Finally, a senator is finally going to have an investigation, but the Senate don't really get shit done. And it's hard for politicians to do anything about this because if you ever say anything along the lines of this, you're soft on crime. You're labeled soft on crime, and you get that it's really just calling a person a pussy, and then you lose basically a lot of the conservative vote. And tonight, since we're having the chairman on, I opened the questions up to the Trek CC chat room, and right away you got some heat for your white privilege comment, which I was going to get to. Like that's the other side of it. People are like, "Oh, you got to support the police. You got to support the police." Can't I do both? Why is it different? Why can't I be? Yeah, I want cops safe. I want the cops safe. That's why I want cameras on them, so they know they don't get. If this dude, we got to find out what happened here. If this dude, let's say the kid had a bad day and he did go for the dude's gun, but we'll never know. So
yeah,
I don't know.
And that's like I'm not vilifying this police officer. The evidence suggests that he shot first, and that's unfortunate. I'm not vilifying him. I don't know. I don't know the answers, and the fact that I don't know what happened because and maybe I'm wrong, but I remember reading right when this happened that the chief of police of Ferguson said they had bought dash cams but hadn't figured out how to install them, and that's if that's true. But
yeah.
I mean, it's in this day and age where everybody has a cell phone camera. I remember watching Cops in the early '90s, and they had dash cams in cars. Like, why is this not a thing? It's just the way it is.
I think a couple nights ago, a cops crew person got shot and killed because he got.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? They gotta stop that. That was a fad. I don't. That's like what's it called? Like they had the bums fighting. What's it called? Exploitation. You're exploiting. I don't want to see it while it's happening and dudes are fighting with their wives or druggies on the street. Like that's just I don't know. That never really did it for me. All right, we haven't even got to the Trek stuff yet. Let's get to we had the main event. We had Gen Con, and let's just go with we'll start with the good stuff because we'll get to the bad stuff. So I don't know, off the top of your head, give me like your top 3 moments of Gen Con 2014.
Well, let me see if I've got it sitting here. A personal moment that
I can surprised you see anything in that dark, your vampire dungeon.
My room is horrible. That's why I keep it black. I got a gift from people. This is just a deck box that got passed around, and everybody who played in day 2, most everybody who played in day 2 signed it. And this was given to me with a nice Target gift card and some cash, which was awesome. It was sort of a thank you from everybody. I didn't expect that. I didn't need that, but it was very much appreciated. So on a personal level, that was a highlight for me.
Yeah, but when you use a Target gift card, the hackers are going to steal your information and then steal your identity. So
Yeah.
it's not
I
really
shop at Target all the time. They already got that, so I went and got my free credit monitoring from them. So the coming out of Gen Con, I think that the highlight is that 99% of the people had fun 99% of the time. I mean, there were moments of like, oh, I went.
That's a lofty claim. I had fun about 80% of the time.
Well, okay, that's probably excessive, but I would say realistically, 75% of the people had fun 75% of the time.
Okay.
It's never fun to lose your games and moments of bullshit and man, was it fucking cold over there. But it was a good con. That even the drama wasn't terribly dramatic. Compared to past years, at least on the scale of drama. So I would say everybody seemed to have fun. There wasn't any degenerate Trek. I think that the Trek was solid. We had a wrap up design team meeting, looking at what was played and everything, and the field was pretty diverse. There wasn't any terribly cheesy stuff. There wasn't a Daniels Hawkins deck that like dominated everything, and there wasn't any sort of degenerate play. It was a good Trek, good diverse Trek, and I think that speaks well to the state of the game and state of the games 1E and 2E. And if you're looking just for highlights, I mean, I'd say attendance was pretty good. 43 unique players for 2E, 34 unique players for 1E, 46 for tribbles. I think we had 80 something unique players playing across the weekend in all the events. It was a good time.
Yeah, my trap question, if I was going to ambush you, was going to be, that's a good. We had all this attendance. Attendance was up, and my ambush question was, well, how do we carry this momentum going forward? Let's go to a fucking island on the other side of the planet. But we're trying to keep it friendly here on the discard pile. So I don't know. Those numbers aren't going to hold up next year at Australia Hotel Conference Room.
I'm sure that they will put on a good show and draw respectable numbers. And
it's harder for Europeans to get there.
I understand that. One of the criticisms last time was lack of notice, and
that question's not for you. That question is for Matthias when he decides to come back on the discard pile. But that's a future. I don't know. I can't make claims because of my Romulan "The Sky is Falling," which we'll get to that later. Actually, someone sent me a question regarding that because I made not bold predictions, but we're staying positive. We're on the best side of Gen Con right now. So I'll start with Wednesday. After
that venue, that would be a nice honorable mention for me. That Granite City where we played Wednesday and Sunday, that was awesome. The place was great.
Yeah, Granite City was nice. They had those cans of the fake Klingon beer. It wasn't too expensive. They gave us all the room. Yeah, Granite City's a good choice. Hopefully we could keep doing that on Wednesday. After that was done, we go back to the JW Marriott, and fucking the Midwest, man, last call's at 1 o'clock, so we couldn't get any more beer. And there's a group of us at this point. We still haven't found, still Nick's there. The Hoskins showed up, and they went up to their room. So, of course, I met Scottish Neil, who's way better than our American Neil. And he's like, I got Jaeger up in my room. And I'm like, fuck, man, fuck. And he said that before we went to the bar, and I'm like, fuck you, I ain't drinking Jaeger. Last call. We had last call. I'm like, fuck it, Neil, let's go to the room. Let's go get your fucking Jaeger. So we go up there to get the bottle, and then Nick's like, oh, they're in the room, James and Will. So I get his key, and I go into the room, and Will and James, they're in the bed, and it's like they have the covers up. They look like two little twins, like little angels, little fat British angels sitting in the bed. And then he kind of wakes up. I couldn't find the light to turn it on, but I jacked him up. And I'm like, nobody quits this. It's a CC. No one gets away. And then I start stabbing him. I'm like, Charlie Plaine sends his regards. And I started fucking stabbing him. He's like, ah. So we run out of the room. We finally find a table outside the JW Marriott that's closed. I guess I woke Will up. Will comes down, and this is not really a best of. This is actually the worst moment of Jen. We all start doing shots at Jaeger, and even Sykes came down. I guess he got out of his cage. The wife's gone. She's hundreds of miles away. He's even doing shots at Jaeger. And the problem with Jaeger is terrible. It's the worst drink. I didn't go to college, so that's why I don't drink Jaeger. And in Jaeger, the beer muscles started going. So beer muscles plus nerds and arm wrestling, it got ugly. I don't know. It was not good for everybody. But so we got to Thursday, and I don't know, man. This is gonna be a bad point. Let's call it the holy grail schedule of being able to win all 3 games, the World Championship, having the schedule set up. So Thursday, for a 2E straight-up guy, was absolutely shitty. I played a 2E Premier. Oh, fuck me. 2E Premier sealed. And then the girl running it didn't like my ideas to make it not suck. So the schedule, and I know even on Section 31, Dan and Rogue were like, yeah, I like it, but they're not competitive guys. Like the people in the final of 1E was 2 non-2E players, so it became.
But the top 4 had 2 people that were in both, so that could have gone the other way. I will agree that we didn't. I'll take the blame. I didn't do a great job scheduling the side events for people that only played one game or the other. I could have had more to do on Thursday for the 2E players, and that will be something that if we use this schedule again, that's something we'll definitely factor in. I ran the numbers, and it's like if we had ignored this, if we had not separated the events, run them concurrently, I think attendance would have been something like 15 and 29. So you're talking half and 60% of your numbers, by overlapping the events. Now that's probably not exactly accurate, because there would have been people that didn't make day 2 that probably would have played the other one. But it's a tough situation, because guys like you and Neil that really only play 2E don't give a fuck about the 1E stuff and don't want the 1E stuff to screw up your 2E schedule.
The people interested in winning all 3 are a minority. They really are. It's a gimmick.
And that's what I don't know. I don't know. And I got to meet Steven Slobby. He's an awesome guy. If he hadn't won both last year, I think the argument to let the Triple Crown happen would have not. I was pretty adamant in the Triple Crown is not realistic. Let's not bother with it. And then he went and won both, which is an amazing accomplishment.
So we can blame the fucking Austrian, and we can not do this again?
I don't know about
I'll accept that.
I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not.
Yeah, the side events are what put a good con over the top. And then Saturday, the team tournament, which should have been on Thursday for 2E, the team tournament turned out pretty lame. I think we only had like 3 or 4 teams, and the energy.
No, there was
Saturday night, people are wiped out. Saturday night, people are just kind of done. Like after they play all the powers, they do silly shit.
I think we were hung up on running them together, and you're right. We could have run the 2E team tournament could have been Thursday night, and the 1E team tournament could have been Friday night, and they would have been fine. They didn't need to be run together. That would have been fine. I think that's a good point. You put those earlier in the week, people are more jazzed about it. Neil has these delusions of running it like as a 6-round tournament, and I'm like, yeah, that's not how Gen Con works. But
we don't need his ideas for anything. That's not the.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point.
Well, we're doing the premier draft, and it was all shitty, and we're talking to Harrington, and I'm like telling Maggie about rules to make it better, and she just didn't want to hear it. And Mike was like, well, you should run the side events. And I'm like, you're fucking absolutely right, Mike. I should. So if it could be better, maybe we should find someone. I'm not nominating myself, but let's find someone who can step it up and do some better. Well,
every year I ask for volunteers. And
oh no, I volunteered to run Worlds one year. Don't talk to me about volunteering.
Yes, you did, but you didn't volunteer to run shit this year, so.
Well, I volunteered a year before that, or 2 years, and was told fuck off. Basically, what do you want? I'm gonna beg. I'm gonna beg every year. Please, Charlie, let me.
Yeah. Yes, I want you to beg. Do the.
Well, I'll have plenty of more time to volunteer because we'll get to that at my end. My model, not my monologue. I got some shit that I was going to shit on. I came into the show ready to bury Neil, but I'm not going to bury him. But I'm going to shit on him. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. So after, I guess we'll stick on bad things. You're right. The hall was 12 degrees the whole fucking weekend. What's up with that?
Apparently, from what I was able to figure out, that's where the air conditioners are closest to that hall. So the cold air starts there and then blows through the rest. So it's like the coldest in that section. I was also like the least fat, sweaty gamer concentrated section. So, I mean, I think it's a note for future reference. If we are assigned to Hall B in the future, we just be like, everybody bring a coat or long pants.
Well, I felt like a genius because I remember Gen Con being cold in the past. And I had like a flannel and I brought it with me. I'm like an old guy. I was like, I know these kids. So I had a flannel. I wore it the whole fucking weekend, looking like a bum. But that was.
I don't remember it ever being that cold at a Gen. This was my ninth in a row.
Not that cold, but yeah, they blast because you got a convention with 50,000 fat guys, so they know to bump up the AC. So I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday night, but on late night tip after some bullshit, we had a whole bunch of people. It was Johannes, Dan, and we're back. We got back to the GW Marriott, and I brought the Spartacus board game with me, so I told everyone Spartacus, and we did a quick game. I showed because we had 6 players, so I kind of like just demoed it for them. Then we tried like Heroes at like 2:30 in the morning. We tried to start a full Spartacus game. Halfway through, we're like, oh fuck, we're tired. So it ended. We're like, fuck it, we'll do a battle royal for the Primus, the 2-on-2. So it ended up being me and Phil versus Sykes and Will Hoskin. And I don't know if you've ever seen the board game. It's just like you do a bunch of maneuvering and then you have little battles in the ring. So I met the true death when Sykes put the trident. Decapitated me. I don't know how you get decapitated if I had tried it. It has to be pretty gruesome, but that went through my head. And then Phil, like a hero, came back and defeated both of them. So then I guess my ghost smiled down upon them as we had glorious victory as my head rolled down the fucking Roman highway, whatever the fuck it's called. But it was fun to finally be able to play some board games. I don't know, man. What other good stuff? What did you take away from it? Any non-Trek stuff that happened?
I didn't have a lot of opportunity to do much non-Trek. The highlight of the non-Trek for me was Cards Against Humanity. We played a couple rounds Saturday night and then Sunday night in the JW Marriott. We just kind of claimed a couch and an ottoman and some chairs on the second floor, and we had 8 or 9 people playing Saturday night, and then maybe 12 people playing Sunday night, and that game is hilarious, and especially when you play with people you don't usually play with. It was really intense. It was very, very entertaining. I keep saying that one of these years I'm gonna not run all the big show and do more gaming at Gen Con. I think that's gonna be my year next year. I think I'll help do the planning, and I'll let somebody else run the big events, and I'll help out at the headquarters table and do my share. But I want to, play more. I did get to play. I played the transporter mix-up Sunday morning, where you play and then you swap decks with your opponent, and then you play another round, and then you swap decks with your opponent. So that was kind of fun. I got to make fun of Brian Sykes for 2 hours, which is, I haven't got to make fun of Brian Sykes in a long time. Brian and I used to play together regularly. So.
Yeah, I spent about an hour a day just busting his balls. And it's fucking snoring. Good God, that guy, man. Like a fucking rhinoceros. Fucking snores.
But it was a good con. I mean, I had great time spending time with people that I really care about, which, Gen Con's like the family reunion. So. Yeah,
so speaking of things you should do on Saturday night, we finally had because we used to do it with your boy Josh Sheets and Steve Rotz. We started the 1E multiplayer battle royal where we do the circle baseline and we open up all the packs. And so we had a shit ton of AU and Premier. So we didn't get the OTSDs. We just got starters of Premier and then a shit ton of AU packs. And we had 4. We had Harrington, Phil, and Lucas Thompson. So I don't know. I don't know. I just threw all my shit together. And I drew the IKC Feckler from AU. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to fly around on the Feckler. Why not? But it requires 2 AU stars to staff. So I don't know what happened, but I had like Mickey D. Mickey D got killed. This is how bad this 1A game's going. I've got Mickey D. So I had to start playing the Mask of Korrigano on like these random Fed and Klingon dudes on the ship to get my ship staffed. So I finally get it staffed, and then Lucas plays that terrible Kevin Uxbridge card that blows up all the events on a space line location.
Yeah.
Yeah, but luckily I had Azure. I think I had Azure out by then. So I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Why did you ruin my Mask of Korrigano Eyes Wide Shut sex party on my Feckler? So, I mean, it was just like, there's no need to do that. So,
it would be fun next year. We just schedule a, 1E Battle Royale, and we just put people in groups of 4 and just be like, go.
Yeah, I know. Like 2 years ago, we had like 7 or 8 players, and they had the board ship was flying around, blowing everything up. And this one dude started getting like competitive, like he wanted to win it. And we're like, yo, guy, like I'm running around on a Feckler having a Mexican Korrigano sex party. This isn't a real with fucking Mickey D and Azure. Like no one.
Well, the real question is in Iron Man Trek like that, where you're literally ripping up cards.
Oh, I didn't mention that part. Yeah, when something gets killed, you have to rip them up and throw it right in the middle.
If you get a future, do you play it?
Yeah, well, that was the rule. Yeah, if you get the future, you had to play it. If you get a board ship, it's got to get seeded. We had some goofy stuff. We had a lot of Harrington had he hit like 5 higher than fewer, so he had a mission done, but he was still at like -5 points, and it was all sorts of goofy shit.
God.
Yeah, it was. We had a planet where there was a double rape planet. It was all these hunter gangs were just kept raping people. I think it was Lucas. That's a bad planet where people are getting raped over and over again. And we had what was it called? The interphasic plasma creatures. Yeah, so Lucas hit that, and then Phil and Mike had brain drain. So basically all of Lucas's guys were strength 0 for the rest of the game because they all had space aids. So
that's not good.
Yeah, then all his guys got raped. So that's what happens. Space aids. All right. So overall, I guess like you said, the game was clean. I'll take credit for that, being the errata guy. Yeah, no big thing. I'll hold off on my big the worst thing about Gen Con at the minute. We did get some questions sent in this week, and the first one's from our #1 fan out there on the West Coast, Nasty Nate. And he's trying to redeem himself from the horrible question he sent in last show. But he sent me 2 paragraphs of nonsense. And the question was basically, did we overreact to Romulans? Was it that bad? And he tried to mention that you might have said previously that maybe some Romulan cards got cut in the upcoming expansion, which is announced probably right now as we speak, right? The set's being announced.
It is up. Balance of Terror releasing September 19th.
There you go. The people who were crying about their spoilers, they're coming. Was anything cut? I don't recall any Romulan cards being cut from that set.
So, Balance of Terror is 45 cards, which is a change from... I should explain this. I think I've talked about it in other places. This is not the default. The status quo now is that there is no default size anymore. We were doing 45 when the CC first started, and then we did a 90-card set.
Wait, hold on. One set was 45, right? The first set.
No, I think it was 2. The first 2 were 45, and then we did 90, and then we went to 54, if I recall correctly.
Are you fucking snacking right now? We're having a show here. Jesus Christ. We don't have time for fucking snack. You're like Winnie the Pooh, man. Come on, man. We're trying to do a show here.
What we're trying to switch to is... Between 1E and 2E, what we're trying to do is switch away from get 54 cards that are ready to release the set on time. One of the big complaints we've had over the last couple of years is we're kind of inconsistent with our release schedules. It'll be 5 months between expansions and then 8 months to the next one and then 6 months to the next one. So we're kind of switching from 54 cards whenever they're ready to we're trying to put out a set in September, so it needs to be ready end of July so we can get through all the steps. So when we were finishing Balance of Terror and Project Martha, we were only at like 51 cards that we liked, and I think we're still going to try to get to 9s because it's nice, clean, even number of pages. So we needed to cut 7 cards or so to get it down to 45, and there were 2 Romulan cards that we took out mostly because that at the time the Romulans had won 2 out of the 3 Continentals, and
okay, so
it was a factor, but it wasn't the deciding factor. The deciding factor was they didn't really fit the theme of the expansion. They were some of the more off-theme cards, so we were like, we don't need these right now. But the nice side is we've got 2 well-tested Romulan cards sitting in the cut file, so if we ever need a hole filler in the future, they'll probably come back. So.
Okay, so I have no problem with that. So okay, I just want to make sure that was accurate. He also was worried about, because there's talk, I guess, on my end about the deck soon to be errata. And first of all, decks don't get errata, cards get errata, which affects decks. So I don't know, like, anything that wins. Well, I'm sorry, it's about a point. So did we overreact? And I'll answer first. And the answer is no. We crushed Continentals. Far and away, they were just destroying it in different levels, on discard level, on just overwhelming you with just fucking 18 people with these abilities that can prevent stops and kills. And so you had the European version, you had Neil's version. So did we overreact? No. And anything that crushes Continental season like that, it is going to get on the radar now. So there's no errata soon to be released. No, but is there stuff?
I think overreacting would have been, oh God, they've won 3 Continentals, nerf everything going into Worlds.
Yeah. There's something. If nothing happened before Worlds, so it's impossible to overreact.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing happened.
We didn't. The fact that Romulans were doing well was a factor in cutting cards. It wasn't the defining factor. I know you and I have had discussions about Romulans. We don't even agree on what their issue is, and that's fine. It's definitely, when anything wins a Continental, I think you should take a look at it. Not in the context of we need to nerf this. I mean, there's this long-running joke about whatever wins Worlds we break, and I hate that joke because it's not always the case. But
yeah, that joke doesn't apply too because Neil just disproved that joke because Marquis has had all their same tricks, and they haven't been touched, and it's because that deck gets played so rarely because it's a fucking no fun to play.
It's a hard deck to play,
and it's no fun. It's really not any fun. Only a sociopath would enjoy playing that deck. Did I just call Neil a sociopath? Yeah, I just did. But
I think it's our responsibility as the people that are maintaining the game to look at what's winning high-level events, not necessarily to act on that information. But we should be looking at them. So
yeah, if something happens months from now, it's not an overreaction because you had a whole season of only 2 erratas were things to keep the game clean, and the game was clean, so the job was done. My next question comes from Australia, even though I spent all my time shitting on it. At least some people still talk to me there. It's from Iron Mike. I forget which guy that is exactly. I'm sure I met him in Germany. But his question is, what should be the upper limit of how much one player can interact / disrupt another player?
That's an interesting discussion. I don't think that you should ever be able to... I'm trying to think of the way to word this. You shouldn't ever be able to do something that is going to force the opponent to sit there for the rest of the game, unable to play their cards.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what 2E held is, learning the lessons of the sins of 1E, so that's why they have the built-in headquarters rule. They have, right. Where you're not...
But I'm trying to think of the example. There was a card in... Might have been Unnatural Selection, it might have been Return to Grace. There was some card that we were kicking around that completely stopped a deck from even... if I played this card and you were playing this particular deck, you were done. You were done. The game was over. I don't remember what it was, and I wish I could. That is clearly too much. Too much. That should never happen. There should be good matchups and bad matchups, and
but is that the upper limit? Complete wreckage. The question is, what's the upper limit?
that's way beyond the upper limit.
Yeah, we agree. We agree that you shouldn't be completely rocked, but that's why we play 2E and not 1E still. Well, at least I haven't gone back to 1E because I remember those days. I remember doing it to people more often than it happened to me. So, I mean,
I think it's an interesting philosophical question. I don't have a mathematical answer for you, but
is it philosophical when Mikey just won Worlds?
It's philosophical in that it's philosophical in that I don't have a.
It's a tough question. Yeah, I agree.
Counter advantage, but it's my instincts are saying, I shouldn't ever really be able to cost you more than one mission throughout the course of the game. Meaning, I can't drain you of enough resources to make you to do more than 4 missions. I think it should be within the realm of possibility to say, now you've got to do all 4 of your missions. Anything more than that, is unfair.
There are basically 3 kinds of denial. There's point denial, there's personnel denial, and then there's counter denial. Yeah. So, you got those 3 types of denial. So, there has to be a limit on And on the personnel side, you were saying in a design meeting how kill piles have become so heavy, and that's a form of denial. So I think we're kind of a little bit over the curve when it comes to personnel denial.
I think for personnel denial, especially through the dilemma pile, it's too strong right now. I think that's one of the reasons Romulans and Maquis won a big events this year, leaning on those kill piles. Counter denial.
No, they're still fun. Yeah, they're.
Counter denial. I feel like I should never be able to keep you from playing a ship. I know I know right now if I'm playing Cardassians and I get lucky and get tribunal sentencing out, there are some affiliations that can't play a ship. Dominion comes to mind. I think that's a problem.
Well, I think the sweet spot in that regard is 3 to 4 counters. Yeah, is the most you should be able to get somebody down to is 3 or 4 counters a turn.
I'd say 4 is probably about as much as you should realistically get without going into crazy. I could see if you built some crazy 3 headquarters fortress deck. Getting but even so, I think there needs to be a way to make sure that you can always play a ship. And then in terms of point denial, I don't think the absolute upper bound is I never can force you into needing to go to more than 4 missions. It's not. Yeah. If I can drain you so much that you can't physically build a deck that could get enough points to win, that's a problem. So.
Well, yeah. The first part is upper limit, and that's kind of tough because you never really know until you go too far. And I think we found out with All-Consuming Evil. We found out, and I've been saying it for a while now with Alarming Rumors, which is a card I despise. But I think that's what put Maquis a little bit over the top when it comes to, and that can deny you a whole lot of shit, ships, people, anything but ship. I think it is. I forget. It's such a great denial card. It's blanket of all the shit. The second part, you put interact/disrupt, which is 2 different things. Interaction's great. Interaction's great on just about every level. Even if I'm doing something bad to you, or if I'm doing, interaction's what the game's all about. You don't want Trek Solitaire like the early days of 1E or the early days of 2E. And disruption is good, and then when it goes too far, it becomes an NPE. It's a high risk, high reward.
And the problem with that is different players measure that level at different points. People have different tolerances for disruption. A very casual player has almost no tolerance for it, and a more competitive player has a lot higher tolerance. I would say the one caveat with interaction is the upper limit would be when it's dragging the game. Like, if I'm doing so much stuff on my turn that it's making the game slow to a crawl, that's a problem. I'd say you can have too much interaction. Measuring that is difficult, but if that makes some sense. So.
Yeah, I mean, but you gotta take the type of tournament into consideration too. Sometimes people, casual players are more often in locals, so it's
there's definitely a sliding threshold based on the level of the tournament.
Yeah. So Iron Mike's other question, he did a complete 180. He wanted to keep it simple. Who's the most useful and least full Avenger? Here's your nerd question of the day.
Well,
keyword being useful and useful, most and least. Useful.
Let's see. I'll say the least useful. The least useful is, at least based on the observable evidence, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to date is Hawkeye, because he didn't get to do shit in that movie, and his power set is very limited.
His ability is archery. That's not a fucking superpower.
Yeah, he has cool arrows and he shoots well. That's
Well, yeah. The whole problem with the Avengers dynamic is it's three superheroes and 2 heroes whose skills are archery, and the other is being really fucking hot. So
I would actually put Black Widow as a candidate for most useful Avenger just because of her resources and her skills. But
I don't know. I don't think she's useful. I think Hawkeye could be more useful than her. Well, my I guess for useful, and I'm having lunch with my 9-year-old, and I gave him he brought up comic books as 9-year-olds are prone to do. So I hit him with the classic: who wins in a fight, Hawk or Wolverine? He was like Hawk, and I was shocked me. I'm like, back when I was young, man, X-Men were hot in the '90s. X-Men were everything. Wolverine, no one gave a fuck about Hawk when I was a kid. Avengers have made him. He's in vogue again. So now it's all about Hulk smash. So he's the most useful. Least useful is Tony Stark because he's an unreliable drunk, and
but see,
he's not. He's Tony Stark's fucked up, man. How did he not know about Hydra? In hindsight, he was going to learn all the S.H.I.E.L.D. secrets in the Avengers, and it turns out Hydra was there the whole fucking time. I think Tony Stark fell asleep drinking too much that night.
Didn't they catch him before he finished? Anyway, I would actually probably say Tony Stark is the most useful Avenger simply because he's got so much fucking money. He can get you whatever you need. Literally, he can buy anything that you need as an Avenger. So my answer for useful would be Tony Stark, and for least useful, Hawkeye. Entirely based on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you expand into comics, it's very different.
Yeah. All right, so let's. Unfortunately, we had a sour bite to end the meal of Gen Con, and so this is where I'm gonna get to the point where I say bad things. So, what was your take on the very end of the World's Final? I was watching because I had to buy the team tournament because I'm not good at this game, it was so fucked up. Let me start off by saying it was so fucked up. I thought Johannes won. I came up to Johannes and congratulated him. He didn't win.
let's explain what happened. So let me tell you what happened from my point of view, just as I recall it.
You were there. You were the judge.
I understand. I'm telling you what was going through my mind as I was watching this. I can't speak to what Neil and Johannes were thinking. So we haven't had a public clock for a long time. So the general policy that I have used for the last 5 or 6 years has been I will announce the time at 30 minutes, and then if you ask me, I will tell you and your opponent what the time is. Over the years, that's gotten less and less to be an important thing because everybody either wears a watch or has a phone, so they can really run their own timers. And I would start time, and half the table would start a timer on their phone. So I've gotten in the old days, it used to be like, we're not going to tell you how much time is left. I know Keller was a big fan of that. He's like, less than 5 minutes, and that was it. That's the only answer you got. So Neil and Johannes were playing, and they play on a much different level than me. So it was a good game back and forth. Johannes would. Anyway.
So in other words, you had the clock right there, so everyone could see.
The clock was right there. In fact,
so that's fine. So yeah, all right. In hindsight, I've always done it in any tournament I've ever run is a 30-minute warning, and that's it. Only thing I'll tell somebody is the 30-minute warning already passed, and where I'll say a little while ago or a very long, almost 30 minutes ago.
But like I said, in the modern era.
Yeah, so even if the clock was right there, that doesn't excuse any kind of shitbag behavior.
No, and I'm not justifying that. I'm just giving some context.
The clock aside, yeah, we all know the time was running out. So then what happened?
Anyway, time was running low, and Neil had gone first. So when time was over, and it did not look like the game was going to get to a full win. So Neil was going first. So if time ended on Johannes' turn, that was the game. If time ended on Neil's turn, Johannes got another turn. I think Neil was still winning at the time, and he took his turn, and Johannes spotted him the mission. He only basically said, "I know you've got the mission." So Neil solved the mission, and I think he flew over and attempted another mission, and then he said he was hurrying, and he said, "Go." while Johannes plays his counters, and Neil is like, he's not being pushy at this point, but he's like, yeah, okay, come on, yeah, go ahead, and Johannes is like, okay, I attempt the mission, and Neil's like,
he wasn't being pushy, but he was being a dick. Okay, I got you. Go ahead.
He hadn't gotten to being a dick yet.
That's being a dick.
Johannes was trying to figure out his crew for the mission, and Neil was like, you've got it. Neil was like, it's fine. Now.
Yeah, but before he attempted?
Before he attempted, yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Before he attempted. So Johannes was like, okay. He turned the mission over, and he's looking at his personnel. Neil's like, go, come on. And I said something. I'm like, Neil, stop.
Yeah.
At this point, Johannes is simply looking at his personnel, and this is almost at time, he's got a lot of people in play, and in my mind, Johannes had not. We
can simply say that Johannes is beyond reproach. Everyone's played him. He's been playing for a long time.
Yes.
He's never came to play. All right, I know. We'll concede that point.
Okay. Anyway, Neil is like, not even 15 seconds into Johannes looking at his people, Neil is like, take an action. And at this point, I'm like, Neil, no. And I'm like, okay, this is a verbal warning.
Like a dog.
The first one was a verbal warning. Yeah, literally. So I get out the code of conduct because I need to figure out exactly what penalty. I don't use this thing very often. I don't have it memorized. So I'm like, all right, I need to look and see what I'm writing down on the scorecard for giving Neil. Because he was being a complete ass at this point. Take an action. That's douchey is all douchey. Johannes, I didn't know it was in his hand. I guess he had the option of going to another mission, even though Neil didn't think he did. Instead, Johannes flew home and said, your turn. And on my timer, there was like 13 seconds left. So at this point, I just stopped the timer because it's going to go one more cycle.
Yeah. So Johannes, instead of trying to look like he's taking advantage of the situation, he just
I don't know if he succumbed to the pressure or he decided it wasn't worth going to another mission.
I talked to him, but it's okay. So he did.
he wanted another go. So meanwhile, this is happening. I'm looking in the book, so I'm not actively paying attention to the game. So I don't know exactly what happened. All I know is Neil does some stuff and looks up at Johannes and sticks his hand out. And Johannes shakes it, and they both start cleaning up. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I stopped him. I'm like, wait a minute. Neil, did you get a full win? And he said, no. And I said, doesn't Johannes get another turn? And they both kind of look like, oh, shit.
So the guy, let's put this in perspective. The guy who was rushing the other guy because he knew he went second, and that would be the end of time. And then on his very next turn, says good game and doesn't think the other guy has another turn. So that's Jesus.
Look. So at this point, I ask Johannes, can you reconstruct the game state? He's got his whole deck shuffled into his. He's got his whole.
No, it didn't matter. They shook hands. Yeah.
So they did shake hands. So I'm like, this is a problem. So I start looking in the code of conduct because this is misconduct. This is disruption. And in my head, I'm thinking, all right. I issued Neil a written warning for being a jerk.
You give a turn loss next, yeah.
The default penalty for misconduct is a turn loss, but with a previous penalty, that goes to game loss. So my brain is like, oh shit, I have to disqualify Neil.
Yeah, I know. That was your position. Do I just let this stand? And Johannes, that's the problem.
Well, that was the choice that I had, and honestly, the only choice I had was I have to disqualify Neil. At that point, Johannes said, "Don't worry about it." He closed the book, and he accepted the result, and so I let it go.
And at the end of the day, that is what made me sick to my stomach, was because Johannes is the type of guy who wouldn't say a word about it and just said, "Just let it go." And as the guy is getting screwed, and he got screwed.
But he doesn't want to, and I understand it. But like, I can only imagine he doesn't want to win the world championship that way. Like
he won it. He won it with 13 seconds left. He won it the turn before. That was the point. And then on top of that, so.
Well, let me finish. So at this point, I'm like, all right, I will respect Johannes's wishes and not enforce the penalty. So I said, I shook his hand, I shook Neil's hand, and then I basically yelled at him in front of everyone. There's a big crowd looking, and I'm basically like, you acted like a jerk, and you were incredibly lucky that he is not asking me to enforce the code of conduct, and I expect better from you. And I did, and I did, and I do expect better from all of our players, but especially Neil. So that was the end of it. I congratulated him on his victory. I considered it done. I understand that later Neil and Johannes talked it out, hugged it out, or whatever, and that's great. I'm glad that that's, you know.
Well, no, it's a shitty point all around that a person was. He put Johannes in that situation. He put you in the situation of having to decide: do I disqualify a guy in the world's final for being an asshole? That's because sometimes you do. Sometimes you do, and of course that's the toughest call to make. And
well,
Johannes took that
right now. I would have, if Johannes had not said, "Don't bother," I would have disqualified Neil. It was the only option available.
And he should say that. He should say that because he's an honorable guy. And I mean, unfortunately, stuff like that should be, that's up to this is a world's final. In brackets and finals, the TD can step in and fix shit, and that goes way back. But you obviously you're not going to do that. I'm not here to put you on the spot to say what you should have not done. You were the judge. TDs do what they have to do. That's their discretion. It all falls down to player behavior. And I said on this show, like not even a couple months ago, that I've had enough. I've had enough of the shitty behavior. This year I've watched a grown man cheat against a little girl. I watched a guy who is now your sworn enemy, your buddy. Let's just call him Jimmy Hoskins from Liverpool. We had a dispute where he was telling Will right before a game what my deck was doing, and later he was like literally trying to get me to beat him up or something. I'm like, just get away from me. So I've seen a grown man try to just start trouble for no reason, and I've seen a guy win worlds basically by taking a kid's lunch money. So basically, I've seen small men do petty things this year in 2014, and basically what it boils down to is that this game has no prizes. All you're doing is playing to get your name on the board, and Neil wanted his name on the board more than anything. Now, he said he fucked up afterwards, but I didn't get the vibe. It was a fuck up. I know I fucked up, but I can kind of live with it.
Well, and I'll say this. I have a little bit of tolerance for this because this was, 8 o'clock on a Saturday. They'd been playing 6 hours. They played 12 hours the day before. What?
This wasn't people messing up.
Tolerance for making a bad judgment. Like, I'm not forgiving it. I'm not saying that.
I love, and this is the reason I'm not going to bury Neil. I had things I was going to say.
And that's what I'm saying.
I was going to absolutely bury him, but I decided because Neil. It's hard to do because Neil Timmons the person is my brother. I love Neil. I take a bullet for Neil the person, but Neil the player, he has a history of this. This has happened before. This isn't the first time he stuck his hand out and fucked up a handshake. He's fucked up handshakes. So Neil, we have a player who has a history of, I don't want to say questionable behavior, like there's.
And I'm going to tell you, I got two things I want to say. One, I'm of the opinion now that at high level events, we don't let people touch their cards until the TD comes over and certifies the result.
Oh, well, I don't want to get into the hold on because people are talking about the bracket. They're blaming the bracket.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the bracket.
Now you're trying to convolute, change the rules. That's what. Hold on, let me finish. This is what we're going to stop right now. I'm gonna paraphrase Shakespeare. Holy shit, I said that. The answer is not in our laws. It's in ourselves. The point is, we've set this game up fine. We've set everything up fine. It's people acting shitty. You can't regulate people acting shitty. All the good intentions in the world, and all the things are set up, people have to police themselves. My point is, this game has no prizes. It matters how you win. And it didn't matter how he didn't care how he won. And it left it shitty. It was a nice Gen Con tournament, and it ended so shitty. I was flying home feeling shitty about it. It had nothing to do with me, but it happened to a good guy on top of it. So I don't want to hear about the bracket. It's the problem with the bracket. It's a problem with, the game's over and someone's got to come over. No, it's players acting fucking stupid. And I said before I wasn't going to tolerate it, and I'm not going to tolerate it now, even if it's my best boy in the world, a guy who I love. I love Neil Timmons. He's a great dude. He's been good to me. But
let me riff on this, because I agree with you, but it's a systemic problem, because, and I know you and I don't see an eye to eye on this all the time, but I agree with you that it's how we act that matters. And over the past year to 2 years, there's a subset of people, less in tournaments, but on the forums. This carries on to the forums too, that just want to be shitcocks. And I'm not talking about, trolling and poking at each other. That's fine. But like, there are people that just want to be. They want to watch. It seems like they just want to watch the world burn, and they're coming on the forums that are arguably one of the most.
About the game, though.
No, let me talk. Let me talk, John. No. You're talking about the game, but the community.
About practice. We're talking about the game.
The community is just as important to this game as the gameplay itself, right? I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm saying that these are symptoms of the same problem, which is there are some people in this community, and I'm not naming names. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm saying that some people need to think about why they're acting the way they're acting. It goes to Neil.
You want to riff? Let me riff on that. So you're saying it's like, let me go back to my boy Nixon. He was blaming the culture. He loves to blame the hippies. That society has problems today because we lose our values and our culture. It's our culture. So are you saying the culture in the forums has correlated to Neil acting like a scumbag in a game?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are some people who, and this is just society. I'm saying there are some people who are more interested in acting in a way that entertains them, pleases them, benefits them, than in a way that maintains the integrity of the game and the community. Like, there's a very real problem of people coming to the forums, seeing some of the things that are going on, and then never coming back to the forums or going to lurkers. And there are people, but John, now just follow what I'm trying to say here. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not naming names. I'm not saying that Killer B is an asshole. I'm saying these are symptoms of this. I'm saying what you're saying is this is another manifestation of that same root problem, is that we have some people that are taking this too seriously and causing damage to the game and the community.
They don't. Now, Charlie, you said it. Killer B's an asshole. Internet John is the worst. But you see me play games and I'm having fun, and you want to take that action back. Go ahead, take the action back. And I've become probably one of the least competitive players. I'm more just because my motive is to have fun.
But I'm not equating those two.
Yeah, but you know what you're saying. So how does my behavior online is shit? But it's about sportsmanship. Sportsmanship doesn't happen online. We're talking about when two people sit down to play a game. It could be tennis, it could be anything. Now we're talking about Trek. It's sportsmanship. That only applies in the game. That's what's missing. People are being they're I don't want to say even it's not even about competitiveness. It's about just a pity.
But see, it's not missing. It was missing in a few of these cases. It's not.
Yeah, it takes one at bat out of the bunch. I'm not saying this is a systemic problem affecting a good part of the community. I'm saying it happens to every year. We get back to the room, and your boy Sykes is like, do we have to have something happen every year? And he's right. One person every year at Gen Con fucks it up and just leaves a shit taste. I'm tired of that one fucking guy. That one guy needs to stop, and people need to tell him to fucking stop. Now, if you were a hero, I would say a hero. If you had, you should. I'm not saying what you should or should not have done. That's up to you, and I don't care. It's your call to make. But if I would have rung him up, I would have disqualified him. And if you did, that would have sent a message to everybody that you can't act like a fucking asshole just because it's a world championship. There's no prizes. There's nothing. So there it is. There's no message. That behavior, it gets people been getting away with it for so long that one guy, we had to send a message. That guy has to stop. I'm tired of that fucking guy. I left Gen Con not happy. You're right. I had fun 75% of the time, and then that one shit fucking ruined it for me. It just really left a sour taste in my mouth. And yeah, I can't quit this game. But if I was a guy who could quit this game, I would have. But I like meeting new people. That's why I play this game. I have fun. I met a fucking crazy Scottish guy and drank Jaeger. I want that. That's worth it. It's a good trade-off, but I shouldn't have to make that trade-off between one guy fucking up my Gen Con and then meeting new people and having fun. And I played to teach my kids. I stick around because I want to teach my kids this game, and I like to teach them games because it helps them learn things like sportsmanship and strategy. And I don't know, we see these guys acting like fucking clowns. And so I will volunteer for anything you want to do at Gen Con because I can't quit this game, but I can be more mindful with whom I play this game with. I don't have to play this game with these people anymore. I want to play Trek with people I'm going to have fun with. So that's all it boils down to. I hope people can act right in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I could say
Team
a lot
Jersey's
more,
dead.
but
I'm announcing it right now. Team Jersey's dead. Neil has brought dishonor to the green jersey. I would tour Discommodation Klingon style. He's out. So there you go. The death of Team Jersey, thanks to Neil Timmons' shitty behavior. But I love you, Neil, but you gotta stop.
It was shitty officially, as the judge and as the chairman. I consider this particular matter resolved. I do.
Oh yeah, the matter is resolved. Yeah.
I do agree with you on some of the, potential ramifications of this type of behavior, but it's something to look at moving forward. It's something to look at.
Make a statement, John. Say as a future you're gonna you say you want a TD less or whatever. But just say that in the future I'm gonna start ringing motherfuckers up for horse shit. Is it hard to do that? Is it hard to say if you're just shepherding people through turns and being aggressive and saying, God, take your turn, and then just should we be a little bit more aggressive in the code of conduct?
I think that at high level play, I think that could benefit us. Yes.
Okay, good enough. I'll take that. There you go.
It's a complicated issue, but yes, I think that
it's not being a dick complicated. I don't think it is. Is that our disagreement? That it's not that complicated?
You're not wrong. However, figuring out, to the degree at which shit like that should have been stopped, and in the future, I would like to think that if Neil or someone else tries to behave that way again, I will be much more authoritative in my response. Right. It'll be an immediate, this is what you did wrong, and another infraction will escalate. That in and of itself might have stopped what happened from happening if I had been much more authoritative when I had first given a warning to Neil. So.
Yeah, it's a shame it has to go down that road because, like I said, this game comes down to people policing themselves, and just what are you going to do? Some people really want to see their name on the website, and then people want to see the worst part is I had to see this picture. Why'd you put that picture up? That fucking picture. So it was a sour taste to end the meal of Gen Con, but it was a success. We had a lot of people. It was Gen Con. Gen Con is blowing up, man. I think they had over 50,000 for the first time. Some crazy ass shit like that. Gen Con's fucking huge.
Yep.
Yeah. So hopefully we can keep that going on, right?
I would like to keep going to Gen Con for a very long time. So.
But the rotation is set, right? Every 3 years, right? The rotation's set.
Look, I don't make the decisions in the organized play department, John.
Wow. Well, Australia was tapped. And then we got Australia, but that's just. Like I said,
as far as I know, Australia 2015, Europe 2016, back to North America 2017. I assume it'll be back at Gen Con. I don't know the details.
Christ. If it's not at Gen Con, oh fuck, man, fuck us all.
We could do a good Worlds in Vegas. So.
Oh well, yeah, something absurd. If we tried to do something bold, maybe. But Minnesota was nice, but it wasn't the mecca. It wasn't the mecca of all gaming like I was joking about before. It was just a nice store in a really shitty area with shitty weather. Fucking 64 degrees and raining in July. Fuck you, Minnesota. Yeah. That's why the guys went off to do jihad. He got killed. He was from Minnesota. 2 guys from a high school go to fucking Syria and get themselves. That's how bad Minnesota sucks. That people. And he put on his Facebook that he reverted to Islam. I guess instead of converted. So good job, Minnesota schools. But at the end of the day, he's probably right. You really do revert to Islam when you turn into a suicide bombing fuckhead. Why did I end on that note? That's a shitty note to end on. Charlie, end on a better note. Give me something. Give me news. Balance of Terror. It's dropping. It's dropping. What date was that?
Yeah, it's coming out September 19th. The announcement article is up today with at least 2 cards spoiled in it that haven't been shown before.
All right, I'm gonna pull the answer. So you spoiled. There's a big, oversized species 8472 keyword dilemma. I'm gonna pull it out of you. Don't make me snitch. What's that keyword mean? What's species 8472?
My brand manager. My brand manager. Okay, look.
Brand manager.
I'll say this. When we did Return to Grace, we made a Chula Dilemma pile that has been really well received and pretty fun to play. Species 8472 is another new Dilemma pile, and
but it's not a mechanic. It's the Dilemma pile itself is not a mechanic. Like
the Dilemma pile, the keyword itself on the dilemmas means nothing. But if you look at The Weak Will Perish, there's an element on that card, other than the keyword, there's an element on that card that is shared by all the other 8472.
Why are you being vague? It goes in core. It goes in core. Why are you being vague?
Because I'm supposed to be vague, John. I'm not supposed to tease everything on the first day.
We're not even. I'm sorry. What date did it drop? September 9th?
September 19th.
19th. So it's all right. 3 weeks. 3 weeks
no,
away.
Sorry. The 12th.
And I don't want to hear it.
On the 19th. So
I don't want to hear it because you're whoring out to Section 31 and everybody else giving out spoilers willy nilly.
You had a fucking spoiler. You had a fucking spoiler too. Shut up.
Yeah, it was kind of. But I want the good stuff. People want to know. So it's Tarek Noor, right? Tarek Noor
and DS9 Earth both have new. So I talk about this in the article. Tarek Noor's new mechanic. It's not a new mechanic. There was a card from Return to Great, Raise the Stakes, like 4 years ago, Tenuous Alliance, that mills dilemmas. We took that and made that the new Tarek Noor theme. So if you play Tarek Noor...
Now, would that have something to do with people popularizing 22-card kill dilemma piles? Is there maybe...
That may have been a factor, yeah. That may have been a factor. I think if you're playing a 22-card kill dilemma pile and you run into Tarek Noor, you're going to have a bad tournament, or at least a bad game. The Earth mechanic it's called Paranoia. It's a new keyword, and it is what is known as a drawback mechanic, which means it's here's something good, but here's something bad, and all of those Paranoia cards follow that theme. What's interesting about that is it caters to a very specific type of player who will anybody can play that and have fun. The type of player that will have the most fun with that deck is the type of player that will enjoy minimizing the drawback and maximizing the bonus. So for example, a really rudimentary drawback mechanic would be all of your personnel are strength +1, but cunning -1. Just as an example. A min-maxer would put in high cunning people to reduce the damage. But there'd be two options. They'd either completely ignore the drawback and just maximize the strength as much as possible. Strength missions, strength types, cheaters, strong people that get stronger. You could also take the tactic of, well, I'm going to go that route with strength missions and strong people, but then to offset the drawback, I'm going to run cunning boosters, and I'm going to run smart people so the 7s become 6s, so I'm not hurt as much. That will be fun for those type of players to explore. The min-maxing on the Paranoia cards, which we'll be showing those off over the next couple of weeks. So, and then Species 8472, I won't tell you exactly what it does, but if you look at all of the information that has been previously revealed about this set, going all the way back to Return to Grace, that 8472 is the thing that we haven't talked about yet.
And that's been, I'm going to spill the beans, that's been mechanic that's been tossed around for years in design, was it not? It's been changed a lot, but
Brad was around when we first did 8472. I do not remember what set it was for. It was a while ago.
I remember you showing me in Ohio back at the bar next to the Watchtower. I mean, you were excited about it, but I guess we couldn't iron it. Well, this is way before I was in design.
When we did it before, it had some problems. So we set it aside. And
so this is a high risk. I would still say a high risk, high reward mechanic, right?
Potentially, it's much more. When we did it the first time, it led to degenerate game states. It led to a you know what? Screw it. Nick will yell at me, but whatever.
I cracked him. Fuck you, Nick. Fuck you.
It is.
Go ahead, spill it.
It's an alternate win.
There it is.
So
that's a debate in itself. The whole we were talking about on previous shows about alternate win conditions. Some people don't dig them and some people don't.
But you've seen it. It's fairly reasonable.
It's reasonable now. Yeah. I had no problem with it.
It ended up in a good place. But yeah. So when we first did it, it led to situations where either your opponent would do nothing, or you could build a deck that never left your homeworld. Which clearly we don't ever want that to happen. Those problems.
All right. Fuck the Voyager keywords. We're done with Voyager. Isn't there another good classic TNG keyword? And I'm gonna let me time out for a second, and I'm gonna let people in on a secret of design. Charlie masturbates thinking about new keywords. This guy fucking loves new keywords, and he really admits it. I'm not a big fan of new keywords. I think there's enough in my head hurts every time trying to think of them all. But all right, give me the other good keyword in this set.
Yeah, we've spoiled one of them. It's bluegills. Bluegills are.
Isn't that episode one of the great cheesy classic TNG episodes?
It's so good. It's like. It's one of those. There are so many good one-liners in it, but it's one of those plot hooks that I really wish they had picked up anywhere later in Star Trek, like in DS9, TNG, DS9, or Voyager. I really wish they. I know they did it in the books, like they came back to it later in the books. That was such a cool plot thread that they just never came back to. And I know Gene Roddenberry was very much like against that plot point, but one of the spoilers tonight is Gregory Quinn, and he's bluegill, and it's the.
Is it him whooping Riker's ass just straight up?
It's from that scene. It's not. It's a personnel shot, so it's not an action shot. But he's got the great line of, "It won't like your science officer. It does like you." And that's his lore.
He turns into Pennywise from Stephen King's It. Like it'll like you. Like turns into a fucking horror character. That's actually a great.
But the bluegills are interesting because they came about. We were doing DS9 Earth, and one of the components of DS9 Earth is the Earth icon. That's what makes it different from one of the things that makes it different from Mouth of the Wormhole. So when we were doing all this paranoia stuff, we're like, if we're doing, and this is part of Phase 2 design, we weren't just looking at Terok Nor and DS9 Earth. We had to look at Bajorans and Federation as a whole, and then TNG came up because TNG also shares Earth. So we want there to be some sort of, Earth identity, and we were playing around with this paranoia mechanic for DS9. We're like, wouldn't it be kind of cool if we had and most of the paranoia stuff is tied to DS9, the DS9 icon. Wouldn't it be cool if we had one that was tied to Earth that could go in either headquarters, and then that sort of led to, what if we made a TNG version of it? And that's kind of where bluegills came from, because they have that whole conspiracy paranoia vibe. So it'll be fun to see. I don't think that deck is going to dominate competitive play, but it's sure going to be fun to. I'll tell you this:
it's got nostalgia. Any deck that can capture that that cheesy, the stop motion animatronics with the dude's head getting blown up and then the thing going in the mouth, all the frames, and anytime you can capture that nostalgia of cheesiness. And I'm gonna nerd out a little bit here because I was trying to catch up on the Netflix with my kids watching TNG. I think we're on season 4. You remember the Ardra episode, the Devil's Due?
I do.
Now, do you remember when Ardra comes into Picard's quarters all dressed up, ready to bang him? You remember that scene?
I do.
Doesn't she look just like Sigourney Weaver in Ghostbusters? It blew my mind. I didn't catch it at the time. She has like the cheesy, poofy hair. Is it all 80s? In the 80s, if you were banging chicks, is that how they all looked? Is that how they all dressed up? The poofy hair and the see-through 90s?
Yeah, that very well might be. It wouldn't surprise me if they were riffing on that, because that was after the movie came out. So.
Yeah, so when she walked out, I said, "Are you?" And I said it. I was like, "Are you the gatekeeper?" And then none of the kids or even Brady knew what I was talking about. But I'm like, "It's Ghostbusters. Go kill yourselves." But that's a great episode too. That Devil's Due, man. Season 4 was the perfect season. That's when it was good, and then I guess that's like the good chunk of the season.
4 was, I think, the highest point. It was still good through 5 and most of 6, and then it dropped off for the last season. But
yeah, well, they're saying too that was one of the highest rated episodes. That Ardra episode. It was
it's a great episode.
Except for Beverly's hair, she didn't get it together towards the end. Beverly, she had a weird. She didn't get that good MILF vibe until season 6. But
Ardra is one of the cards I've tried to make a couple times that she's never made it to print. So.
No, she's a tough one too. She should do something with holograms and. I don't know.
I think the last time we made her, she just when you played her, you could download an interrupt or something, which just wasn't interesting enough for her. So.
Oh no, yeah,
she's one of those characters you don't want to just make for the sake of making. You know, you want to make a good version of. So.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for our third quarter finale. We'll see you back in October on football season. Finally, we got some sports on the TV. I'll thank my guest, Mr. Chairman Charlie Plaine. Thanks for finally coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, like Greasy Ducat, I'm kicking your ass out of the Discord pile.